Every dream begins in a practice room. Every legend starts with just one song. 4 trainees. One shot at debut. And a world that's waiting to see if they'll shine or break. This is the story of SNWB, Ray, the idle pulse, Ryan, the warm pulse, Kian, the edge pulse, Shun, the pure pulse. Together, they're chasing their first stage. Against rivals, against pressure, and sometimes against each other. But every beat, every note, every fight brings them closer to saying one thing to the world. We are SNWB.
SNWB!
The company's practice studio wasn't designed for dreams. It was a rectangular box lined with mirrors that bore the scars of 100 routines, fingerprints, scuffs, tape marks that never came off. The fluorescent lights buzzed above, casting a pale glow that flattened everything except sweat. And there was plenty of that. The speakers clicked off, and the cover track they'd been drilling for the last 2 hours collapsed into silence. The boys staggered apart, each falling into his own rhythm of exhaustion. Ray stayed in front of the mirror. His silver-dyed hair clung to his forehead, damp and messy, but his grin didn't fade. He wiped the sweat from his jaw with his wrist, rolling his shoulders as though the performance wasn't over. Even here, with no one watching, he sparkled. Ray was idle pulse, flirty, magnetic, the one who moved like the stage belonged to him. Ryan, by contrast, walked calmly to the side and reached for his towel. He folded it neatly before pressing it to his face, posture still straight, chest rising in steady rhythm. His dark hair was plastered to his temples, but his eyes were clear, his presence grounding. He was warm pulse, sincere and steady, the one who made the chaos feel like it had a center. Kian threw himself flat on the wooden floor, arms spread wide, sneakers squeaking as he stretched out like he was done for the day. But the restless tapping of his foot against the ground gave him away. His wavy hair was damp, falling into sharp eyes that burned even through fatigue. He smirked, daring the ceiling to try him. Kian was edge pulse, bold, emotional, a rebel with fire in his chest. And Shun, the youngest, collapsed by the water cooler. His cheeks were flushed pink, and he hugged the bottle with both hands, gulping like he hadn't drunk in days. He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand and laughed at nothing in particular. Just the thrill of moving, of belonging. Shun was pure pulse, radiant, open innocence that refused to be dimmed. The door opened. Their producer stepped inside. No greeting, no nod, no smile. He didn't even look at them. He simply pulled out his phone, tapped at the screen, and linked it to the Bluetooth speaker. The room filled with something new. Not a cover. Not another trainee routine. The track exploded bright and sharp rookie pop energy spilling from the speakers, the kind of sound that demanded light sticks and screams. The beat hit the mirrors, the floor, their chests. Ray froze, then grinned wider, eyes locked on his reflection as though he was already on stage. Ryan's head lifted, calm but alert, his gaze shifting to catch the others in the mirror. Kian propped himself up on his elbows, sweat dripping down his neck, smirk fading into something closer to awe. And Shun nearly spilled his water, clapping along off-beat, his grin stretching until it hurt. They didn't know it yet. But the song that had just shaken the mirrors would be theirs.
SNWB!
The final beat snapped into silence, and for a moment the room held its breath. The boy stood frozen, sweat dripping, as if afraid that any sound might break the spell the track had cast. Then the producer moved. Without ceremony, he set a small stack of papers on the desk, crisp white sheets, the ink still smelling faintly of toner. Lyric sheets. "It's a demo," he said, his tone flat, clipped. "You'll practice with it. I'll decide later who sings what." 4 pairs of eyes locked on the stack. 4 bodies shifted toward it at once. Ray's hand was quickest. He slid a sheet toward himself like a prize, the corners crumpling beneath his damp fingers. He scanned the lines with hungry eyes, lips twitching into a grin. The words weren't his yet, but he mouthed them anyway, shaping the vowels, already imagining his voice echoing across the stage. When he reached the chorus, he leaned back with a satisfied smirk. Perfect for me, he muttered, almost to himself but loud enough for the others to hear. Ryan reached next. He lifted the paper carefully, unfolding it as though it might tear if handled too rough. His dark eyes moved line by line, steady and focused. He didn't boast, didn't argue. Instead, he hummed softly under his breath, pitching the notes in his head, testing the fit. The sound was barely audible, but it carried warmth, a quiet promise of what his voice could do. Still, his fingers pressed tighter against the page, betraying a tension he didn't let show on his face. Kian grabbed his copy and flipped immediately to the section with rapid-fire syllables. His lips curled into a grin the moment he found them. Without waiting, he rapped the first few lines out loud.
The spark, the fire, the dream we claim. Remember this breath, remember our name.
His voice still rough from dancing, but full of fire. The words tumbled out fast, uneven, but charged. He slapped the lyric sheet against his thigh and laughed, eyes glinting. This part's mine, he declared, sharp and uncheckable. Shun was last. He pulled the paper toward himself with both hands, holding it close as though it might disappear. His wide eyes moved across the lines slowly, lips forming silent shapes before he dared to let sound escape. His voice cracked on the first try, thin and off-key, and he winced. Then he laughed at himself, cheeks pink, whispering that the words were beautiful. His wonder was unguarded, childlike, impossible not to notice. The producer gave no reaction. He only tapped at his phone again. The demo restarted, the beat pulsing back through the mirrors. This time the boys didn't stay still. Ray stepped forward instinctively, pulling the chorus out of the speakers and into his own voice. It wasn't polished, too breathy, off-tempo, but it rang with a magnetic energy that pulled the room toward him. Kian cut across with the rap break, his rhythm jagged but bold, every syllable spat like a challenge. He moved his body with it, throwing sharp gestures, already carving out a stage in the cramped studio. Shun came in late, chasing the beat, clapping along as he tried to follow Ray's melody. He stumbled, tripped on the words, but his laugh never faltered. His joy filled the gaps his voice couldn't reach. And Ryan's voice threaded through it all. He didn't push, didn't fight, just sang his lines steady and sure, smoothing the chaos around him. It wasn't loudest, but it carried, a warmth that caught the edges of their energy and kept it from flying apart. They circled the room like it was already a stage. Ray pulling forward, chest out, every step a performance. Kian throwing himself sideways into sharp, rebellious motions. Shun bouncing behind, off-beat, but radiant. Ryan grounding them all, adjusting steps with quiet precision, his towel still looped around his neck like he hadn't even stopped to put it down. It was messy, off-key, too many voices fighting for space. Sweat hit the floor with every turn. The mirrors shook with overlapping echoes, laughter breaking through as often as lyrics. But it was alive. Ray dropped his hand from the air and barked a laugh. If you can't keep up, just let me take the chorus. I'll carry it. Kian shot back instantly, smacking his lyric sheet against his leg. Young, keep dreaming. The rap's mine and I'll make it the only part fans remember. He called Ray Hyung older brother. Kian was only a year younger, but in the strict hierarchy of trainees, that year meant respect. Even when he was teasing. Shun, breathless, shuffled behind Kian like a shadow. His voice was smaller, hesitant. Can I maybe just have the ending line? It's short, but it feels special. His cheeks reddened even as he said it, fingers tugging at the back of Kian's shirt like an anchor. Ray's grin widened. McNay wants the big moment, huh? McNay, the youngest. Shun was 3 years younger. Below Ray and Ryan. The one they teased and shielded in equal measure. Ryan looked up from where he was adjusting his footing. His voice was calm, almost fatherly. Let's not fight parts before they're even given. Producer decides. We just make it sound good. Kian glanced back at Shun, still clinging nervously. He ruffled the younger's hair without thinking. Relax, McNay. You'll get your moment. Then, with a playful smirk, he gave Shun a light pat on the butt, the kind of gesture that in any other group might just mean get moving. Shun squeaked, stumbling forward with a laugh that cracked mid-breath. His blush deepened, spreading all the way to his ears. Ray smirked from the mirror. Told you, McNay. Better keep up or Kian Hyung's gonna drag you by force. Ryan shook his head, but even he smiled. And then, without anyone calling it, they each drifted to their own corners. Ray humming the chorus under his breath, eyes locked on his reflection. Kian pacing, rapping lines sharper each time. Shun trailing after him, still lit up pink from the touch. Ryan standing tall in the center, voice steady, guiding himself back onto pitch. The speakers still pulsed faintly, but the real music was spilling out of them now, not just sound but intent. For the first time, they weren't practicing someone else's choreography, someone else's words. They were standing at the edge of something that belonged to them. And it was only beginning.
SNWB!
The week stretched into a blur of music and sweat. The same song played over and over until it stopped feeling like sound from a speaker and began to live in their bones. Most mornings, the producer barely looked up from his phone. But then he would call one of them out, his voice low and deliberate. Again, second verse, slower. Or, repeat the rap. Sharper this time. He never explained why, never said who the part belonged to. Only sing it again. Ray noticed he was always pulled to the chorus, Ryan to the bridge, Kian to the rap. And Shun was the strange one. Some days the producer called him forward to spit the rap, stumbling through syllables that tumbled too fast for his breath. Other days, it was the softer Korean lines, verses meant to float above the beat. His voice wavered, but when it caught, it glowed. Delicate, unexpected. Shun didn't tell the others, not out loud. But after each session, when they broke for water, he edged close to Kian, whispering quick updates. Hyung, he made me rap again today. Or, this time it was the verse. He kept stopping me, told me slower, softer. Kian listened, eyes narrowing with every word. He clapped Shun's shoulder, sometimes rough, sometimes reassuring. Good, keep telling me, Maknae. We'll figure it out, but the fire in his grin betrayed more. Shun wasn't just the Maknae anymore, he was becoming competition. But as the days wore on, Ray started leaning into the chorus, throwing his voice higher, sharper, testing how the hook could carry. By midweek, his silver hair was sticking to his forehead as he pushed through another run, his pitch wavering with exhaustion but still radiating charisma. He spun toward the mirror midline, grinning as if an arena of fans screamed back. Idle pulse born for the hook, born for the spotlight. Ryan didn't compete. He waited for the others to fade, then slipped his voice through the cracks, rich, warm, steady. When he sang the bridge, the room stilled, even Kian paused, caught by the depth in it. Warm pulse, the voice that carried weight, the voice that deserved main vocal. Kian tore into the rap sections, spitting the words like fire. His rhythm was raw, his breath control uneven, but every line came with force. He struck sharp angles with his arms, carving out space in the dance even as he stumbled on footwork. Edge pulse. He wanted to own both rap and center, no matter who stood in his way. And Shun, cheeks still flushed from dancing, practiced the rap and the softer lines. On the softer lines, his voice cracked on the high note the first day. The second, it wavered less. By the third, it rang clear, pure in a way none of the others could match. Pure pulse, innocence with an unexpected strength. The mirrors reflected more than voices. They revealed the fight for space. Ray always moved to center first, pulling the choreography toward him with sharp turns and flashy gestures. Kian pushed back, stepping forward when the beat dropped, his sneakers squeaking as he tried to claim the middle. They collided more than once, shoulder to shoulder, sparks in their laughter and frustration. Ryan adjusted them quietly, shifting an arm here, a step there, his steady presence smoothing what chaos he could. And Shun followed from the back, learning to time his steps, his wide grin softening the edges of the fight. By the end of the week, the outlines of roles were clear, even if the producer hadn't announced them. Ryan's voice anchored the main vocal lines. Kian's rap burned too brightly to be given away. Ray's charisma made him the inevitable center, no matter how Kian pushed. And Shun, gentle, radiant, was sub-vocal, the bright lift that filled the spaces in between. But clarity didn't mean peace. Your foot's late again, Ray said, breathless, pointing toward the mirror as he adjusted his own stance. His grin was sharp, playful, but edged. Kian barked out a laugh. Hyung, you call that sharp? You're half a beat ahead. If anyone's wrong, it's you. He exaggerated the step, snapping his sneaker against the floor with force. Ray mirrored it. Bigger, bolder, spinning just enough to make it look like a stage move. See? That's called flair. You should try it sometime. Kian stepped forward until they were nearly shoulder to shoulder, smirk matching Ray's. Flair? That's called sloppy. Shun, hovering close behind Kian, lifted a hand hesitantly. But I think Ray Hyung's right. Before he could finish, Ryan's voice cut through, steady and low. Not now, McNay. Shun froze, cheeks heating. He lowered his hand quickly, nodding. The tension broke with a laugh from Ray, though his eyes still glinted. Kian rolled his shoulders, as if the fight was settled only in his head. Ryan exhaled, adjusting his towel at his neck, quiet but firm. Focus on the beat. The rest will come. And for a moment, the room fell back into rhythm. 4 boys circling the same song, each chasing their own place inside it. It wasn't official yet, but the song was already shaping them. And in the mirrors, for the first time, they didn't look like trainees covering someone else's routine. They looked like a group.
SNWB!
The studio felt transformed. Gone were the scratched mirrors and sweat-soaked wood. In their place, white backdrops stretched taut, silver lamps humming with heat, reflectors angled just so. Racks of clothing lined the wall. Stylists swarmed like bees, tugging sleeves, blotting skin, spraying hair into shape. For the boys, it was the first time they weren't dressed like trainees. It was the first time they looked in the mirror and saw idols staring back. Ray stepped forward first. His silver hair, now teased sharp, caught the light with every angle. Eyeliner darkened his grin into something magnetic. He winked at the camera, tilted his chin, and the shutter clicked in rapid bursts. Idol pulse, confident, flirty, the spark that made staff whisper, "That's the one who'll make fans scream first." Ryan followed, his outfit darker, sleeker. He didn't force himself into expressions, didn't overplay. He simply looked into the lens with eyes that felt steady, sincere, trustworthy. Every photo came out grounded, natural. Warm pulse, quiet but undeniable, the one whose presence seemed to calm the noise around him. Then came Kian. His jacket hung half off one shoulder, hair falling wild over sharp eyes. He tilted his head, smirked as though the camera wasn't worth his full attention, then suddenly leaned forward with fire, arms cutting angles. Every frame radiated defiance. Edge pulse, rebellious, magnetic, the danger that burned against Ray's polish. And Shun. His hair was brushed down softer, his clothes lighter. At first he froze, shoulders stiff, lips pressed tight. But when the photographer coaxed him, "Relax, smile," he let out a laugh, bright and unguarded. The shutter caught it mid-breath, pure and real. Pure pulse, radiant innocence, the kind that couldn't be manufactured. Together, they moved in for group shots. Closer, shoulder to shoulder. The photographer shouted, "Ray in center. Ryan, anchor the side under Ray. Kian, tilt forward. Shun, smile softer." Flashes popped, catching Ray's playful grin, Kian's cocky lean, Ryan's steady gaze, and Shun's hesitant smile turning warm. At the monitor, they hardly recognized themselves. No longer 4 sweaty boys fighting for space in a practice room. 4 rookies, raw but magnetic, already a group. When the shoot wrapped, the lights cooled, makeup smudged. The boys slumped against the backdrop, catching their breath. That's when the producer appeared. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Parts are assigned. The words pulled them upright. Ryan, main vocal. Kian, main rap. Ray leader, center, sub-vocal. Shun, sub-vocal, visual, and sub-rap. The silence stretched, heavy with meaning. Ray grinned, satisfaction flashing like it had been obvious all along. Center was his, and he wore it like a crown. Ryan dipped his head, quiet but certain. The weight of main vocal, fitting neatly across his shoulders. Kian smirked, pleased at main rap but restless. His eyes still flicked toward Ray, the fire of competition unquenched. And Shun blinked, cheeks coloring. He laughed softly, almost disbelieving. Sub-vocal and sub-rap. Not the fire Kian spat, but a narrative rhythm, spoken more than shouted, lines that would surprise with sincerity. Pure pulse, innocent on the surface, but with words that could cut deeper than anyone expected. The producer gave no further praise, no further instruction. He left them with only their titles, their places, their roles carved into stone. For the first time, they weren't guessing. For the first time, SNWB had shape. And in the glow of cooling lamps, they stood taller, the weight of their new identities pressing into their shoulders like destiny.
SNWB!
The dorm was quieter than the studio, but not by much. Shoes kicked into corners, ramen cups stacked on the table, a faint hum from the fridge filling the pauses between their laughter. Shun sat cross-legged on the floor, phone in his lap. His thumbs tapped nervously at the screen, eyes darting between apps. After a moment, he looked up. "Hyungs, is anyone even searching for us yet?" His voice was soft, hesitant, as if the question itself might be too fragile. Ray snorted from the couch, silver hair still perfectly out of place. "Of course they will. Just wait." Ryan didn't look up from folding his towel. "It takes time, Shun." His voice was steady but kind. Kian leaned over the back of the couch. With one hand, casual and unthinking, he brushed Shun's hair back from his forehead. "Relax, kid. They don't even know us yet." His tone was teasing, but his touch lingered a moment too long. Shun's breath caught. His cheeks warmed instantly, a flush spreading before he could hide it. He ducked his head, fumbling with his phone, pretending to focus on the screen. That's when the notification lit up. A teaser, sharp and black, glowing against the small display. Silhouettes of 5 figures stood still, a single word beneath them in red-edged letters. Obsidian. The name looked heavy, unbreakable. Their teaser was stark. No faces, just shadows, the promise of something polished and dangerous. Ray leaned over Shun's shoulder, his grin faltering as he studied the outlines. Kian scoffed, pulling back with a laugh, muttering that dark filters and dramatic names couldn't make a group real. Ryan frowned, quiet but firm, telling them to focus on themselves. But Shun kept staring at the screen, his cheeks still pink from earlier, caught between awe and nerves. Then another vibration buzzed through all their phones at once. A message from the company chat. Official debut date confirmed. 3 weeks. The dorm erupted. Ray whooped and threw his arm around Ryan's shoulders. Kian leapt onto the couch, laughing, while Shun clapped his hands together, voice cracking with joy. Their noise filled the small room, spilling out into the night. And in the glow of Shun's forgotten phone, Obsidian's silhouettes remained still, sharp, silent, watching. The rivalry had begun.
SNWB! SNWB!
They started the week as trainees, fighting for space in front of cracked mirrors. Now they stand as SNWB, 4 voices, 4 pulses, 1 dream. But with debut on the horizon and rivals already casting shadows, the road ahead won't be easy. Every beat will test them. Every stage will shape them. And this was only the beginning. You've been listening to We Are SNWB, Episode 1. The debut track See New World Breathe is out now. Find the link in the description and hear the song that started it all. Follow the story, subscribe, and don't miss what happens next, as Ray, Ryan, Kian, and Shun chase their first stage. This is just the start. Stay tuned and join us on the journey.